It's been a little bit over 2 months since I got my surgery, and it turns out, I was really hoping this was not going to be the case, but it turns out that my right eye sees a little bit worse than my left eye. Hey guys, Jay here with Word of Advice TV, and this will hopefully be the last video you will ever see me in these glasses. I'm hoping to be able to put these away for good after tomorrow. These glasses, and these, and any others that I have, really. And for those of you that have bad eyesight, know somebody that has bad eyesight, have ever considered LASIK, or are simply interested in the procedure, I just wanted to make this video and record the whole process from beginning to end, how it all goes. I got my preliminary checks done 2 days ago, and tomorrow is the day of the LASIK surgery. Before I even considered LASIK, I really tried to heal my eyes naturally to get them better so I can see good again. I tried drinking carrot juice for like 2 or 3 months straight. I would buy those Costco organic carrot juices. There's 3 in a pack, and be drinking those all the time. That seemed to do nothing at all. Then for 2 months, regularly, I worked out my eyes 3 times a day. For 2 months straight, regularly, and noticed no improvements. The eyeball exercises, you know, where you move them left and right, up and down in a circle, then you do the palming. Some of you might know about this, but I did give that a shot, and I saw pretty much no improvements. So only after trying a couple of these other things, the natural remedies, and them not really working for me, maybe just a tiny little bit, it might have taken me like 2 or 3 years, and I don't want to put that much time and effort into it. Finally, I decided, you know what, let's just try LASIK. I started researching it, and after looking into it and talking to a lot of people that have done LASIK, including a few of my relatives, which highly recommended it, I finally decided to give it a shot. And while doing some digging of my own, I learned some fun facts about LASIK that you may not have known either. Some people think that LASIK is too risky, but in actuality, there's more risk of vision loss from infection using contact lenses than with LASIK. The laser that is used in LASIK cannot burn your eyes or skin. Actually, the laser is cold and does not heat the eye at all. And the last one, if you sneeze, move, or blink during the treatment, the laser tracks your eye over 1,000 times per second, and it will immediately adjust the laser to make certain that the laser is applied exactly to the right place. And I thought this was pretty reassuring too. LASIK has an unprecedented 96% patient satisfaction rate, which is the highest of any elective procedure out there. But anyway, let's get back to my story and talk about what happened 2 days ago. That was my first appointment, so I came in for my preliminary check to see if I even qualify for LASIK. And when you come in there, first they give you a form to fill out, 4 pages of information about yourself, your data, your medical history, your eye problem history, your emergency contacts, and all of that. After you fill all of that out, they take you to a room that has a bunch of different eye machines, and you do a series of tests. The first one I did was some kind of a blue bar spinning. You're looking into a machine and there's a blue bar spinning with a dot in the middle. I asked her what is that, and she said it just takes a picture of your eye. Okay, so I took a picture of my eye. I went to the next machine, looked into that one, and I saw a little house on the prairie that kept going fuzzy and focusing and unfocusing. She didn't say anything about that. I went to the next one. In the next machine, air blew into my eye one at a time to check the pressure of my eye. And I might look confused right now, and that's because I really was. The whole entire time while they were doing these tests, absolutely nothing was explained unless I asked it. After that, I went back to the lobby, sat there for a while. They came and got me, brought me to another room where there was just a classic eye chart, and they cover one of your eyes and you look at it, they cover the other eye, you look at it, and the letters just keep getting bigger and bigger until you can see them. And that's just narrowing down the prescription, or at least that was my guess, because once again, she didn't explain anything at all. It's almost as if they're instructed to say as little as possible. After the eye chart test was done, she took me to another room and told me to wait for the doctor. I waited for about 5 minutes, and the doctor came in, and she was actually super descriptive. She elaborated on everything, so I was getting a little bit frustrated up to that point because they were just keeping quiet. But the doctor kind of cleared everything away. I was able to get the answers to all the questions that I had. She gave me all the information I needed. She talked about consent, that I'm gonna have to sign some consent forms. In essence, you're signing a statement saying that if anything goes wrong, it's not their fault. After she answered all my questions, she did some more tests on my eyes. So I looked through a machine at an eye chart, and the lenses kept changing. And what she was doing there is seeing what my prescription is. She was trying to narrow it down. So she would show me two images, A or B, and ask me which one is clearer. And she kept asking me that probably like 20 times until she finally narrowed down through which lens I can see the best and the clearest through. She also took a look at my cornea, that little layer in front of the eye, because apparently if that's not thick enough, they can't do the operation because that could be dangerous. Mine was plenty thick enough, so she said I qualify. I also found out that my prescription is actually only minus 275. Which is amazing because I thought it was like minus 350 or 375. So apparently it's not as bad as I thought, but what was making it worse is that I have astigmatism. Apparently it's some kind of a thing that makes it harder for your eyes to focus. So as I'm looking in the distance, my eyes pick two focal ranges and they can't decide which one to stay on, which gives me a nice expanded blurry image, far out in the distance. But according to her, my nearsightedness and my astigmatism could be both fixed with the LASIK surgery. In the end, she asked me if I have any more questions, and I took this opportunity to try to negotiate the price down, and I found out that my negotiating skills are not very good, or maybe they just plain out don't negotiate. The price is $5,000 for both eyes. The only thing she could offer me is free eye drops, so I don't have to go to the pharmacy. So after they're done with the surgery, they're just gonna give me the free eye drops. And she also told me that if I pay in cash, $5,000 in cash, then I could avoid paying for the taxes and for the processing fees on a credit card. After all my questions were answered and I failed my negotiation, she took me to yet another room to do another test. And this time I was looking into a machine that was like a big circle. It looked like one of those hypnotizing circles. Well, a bunch of circles within a circle, within a circle, within a circle. You look into that thing and you open your eyes wide, and they take 7 pictures of both eyes, one at a time, one picture at a time. So that took probably a good 3 minutes to take pictures of each eyeball 7 times. After the photo session, she asked me to kick back and relax with my head up and my eyes wide open so she can put eye drops into the eyes. She put 4 drops of different kind of stuff into each eyeball to get the pupils to dilate. It does take some time for that to happen though, so I had to go sit in the lobby once again for a good 25-30 minutes. And while my eyes were busy getting slightly blurrier from the eye drops they received, along with becoming a lot more sensitive to light, they brought me the consent forms that I had to sign and initial. Once again, like I said previously, it was just a bunch of statements and forms to protect themselves. If something goes wrong, they did everything correctly, so it's all on me. I know that sounds bad, but pretty much any operation you get, you have to sign a similar form, so it is what it is. After about half an hour, my pupils were fully dilated and they took me back to the doctor's office. Everything was slightly fuzzy and extra bright, so they sat me in a dark room until the doctor came in with a flashlight. He looked in both of my eyes with that light, and man, I tell you, that was super bright. Basically what he was doing is looking through my pupil into the retina, which is in the back of the eye, to make sure that there's no problems there, and just making sure my whole eye is okay and they can proceed with the operation. And this guy that was checking my eyeballs, he will be the one that will be doing the operation tomorrow. And because my wife really wanted me to ask the doctor, I did ask him how long he has been doing this, and he sort of dodged the question. He just said that he's done thousands of these operations. So, if he's done thousands, at least I'm not a guinea pig for him, so that's good. After the doctor was done with all his checks, he sent me back to the front desk lady, and there I scheduled my appointment for tomorrow, which is a Thursday, to get my LASIK operation done. After that, I will need a driver to drive me home because I won't be able to see good, and they want me to come back the next day in the morning for a follow-up visit for a checkup to make sure that there's no kind of problems or infections that arose. After I was scheduled and set to go, she gave me a pair of these black plastic flimsy glasses that I can put over my glasses, and sent me on my way. Before I left, I did ask him how long it takes for this pupil dilation medicine to wear off, and they said 4 to 6 hours. I gotta admit, when I was driving home, because I came there alone, when I was driving home, it was a little bit of a challenge. It was slightly blurry, and just the medication in my eyes, it was just kind of messing with me. And that is it for now. I will continue this video after the LASIK surgery. And I am back. My eyesight is nearly perfect. I can see pretty darn good. There's a little bit of blurriness and double vision going on things far away on the edges, but for the most part, everything looks good. It's almost like I'm wearing my glasses, but I'm not actually wearing my glasses. So things are going good, and this is 3 days after the operation. But you're probably more interested about what happened on the actual operation, right? So let's rewind a little bit and go back to 3 days ago. 3 days ago, the day of the operation, my wife brought me to the clinic, and first things first, when I came into the lobby, I had to make payment in full before we could proceed. I gave her my stack of 100s, and when she was finished counting them, she gave me this little paper first, which was the post-operation instructions, things that I can expect and things not to do. I'll add a little screenshot of this. And on the other side, we have the eye drop schedule. There's actually a lot of eye drops. There's 3 different kinds. After she gave me this paper and gave me about 20 seconds to read it, next she hands me a little pill, and I forget the name of it. Man, I should have recorded it, but as far as I can remember, it was something like DB206. She gives me this little pill and she asks me, "Are you allergic to this?" I'm sitting there thinking, I have no idea, but I don't think so. So she gave me a glass of water. I drank the water with the pill, and this pill was a relaxant. It calms you down because during the whole operation, you're actually conscious and aware during the whole thing. You smell, hear, and see everything that goes on during the whole operation. So you do need to remain calm during this whole process. After I drank the pill, she gave me this little pouch, which had all the little pill bottles in it. It had some sunglasses, a pair of sunglasses. It also had a night shield that you can put on during the night or while you're taking a shower to protect your eyes so no water gets in there, or at night so you don't accidentally poke yourself or rub your eyes. And last but not least, there was a little product brochure of some kind of a sunglasses that I wasn't very interested in. She asked me if I had any questions, and I did. There's 3 different kind of eye drops, and I was wondering, can you put them all in at the same time, or do they have to be spaced out? And she told me that it's better to space them out. So you put 1 eye drop in, then you wait a couple minutes at least, the next one, and then the 3rd one. Next, I was taken to the waiting room to wait for the pill to kick in. It took about 15 or 20 minutes. I was starting to feel a little lightheaded, a little dizzy, and they came and got me, brought me to the operation room, and in the operation room there was just 2 beds, the doctor and his assistant. So I come into the room and the doctor says, "We will now begin the operation, and as we go along, I will be explaining to you what's happening and what we're doing." Now, this part I did not really like, to be honest. I would have really appreciated it if they told me this ahead of time, what they're gonna do and what the procedure is and what to expect. I kind of went into it blind, not knowing what's gonna happen. But yeah, we just go right into it. And you know what? I understand why they do this. Perhaps they're doing this to prevent any stress or nervousness from the patient. Because if they tell them ahead of time all the stuff they're going to do, then maybe the patient's going to be a little nervous going into it, and that's worse for everybody. So I don't know, but personally, I would have liked it if they did explain it ahead of time. But anyway, back to the operation. There's 2 beds. He told me to lay down on the first one. There's a donut looking thing where you lay your head down on. And I thought that they're gonna secure the head, but they really don't. You just lay your head into this donut pillow thing and you're kind of free to move around. 1 bed is with the machine that cuts the cornea for the flap in order to take that front layer of your eye off so they can laser it. The 2nd bed is the one with the actual laser where they cut your eye and form it into the shape that they want to give you that perfect eyesight. So I'm laying in the 1st bed, and the first thing they do is take this little plier thing. It's like an eyelid spreader, and they spread my eyelid wide open so the eye stays open, which I gotta admit doesn't feel very pleasant, but they do that to 1 eye at a time. So I'm laying on the 1st bed, and the doctor can move the bed around back and forth or left and right, and he could move it up and down and move my head in the donut. And the machine comes down after my head is centered, and a little plunger comes out of it and latches onto my open eye. And unfortunately, in my case, it didn't latch on right, so we had to redo it a couple of times, and every time that plunger came back off my eye, it made this schmucking noise, and it felt so weird. I shudder just remembering it. You know, it's like a schmucking sound that comes off of your eyeball. Starting from the 2nd try though, the doctor did tell me to look into the little red dot in the middle of that plunger, which I wasn't doing the first time because I was kind of checking out that plunger apparatus that was coming down. But since I knew where to look now, it took 2 more tries, but we finally got it centered. And once the eyeball is secured in place, they fire up a laser and they cut the cornea in a circle so that they can flap it back. And during this whole process, it felt like more pressure was applied to my eye, and I don't know, maybe this was just my imagination, but it felt like my left eyeball started drifting to the left. I was really hoping nothing is going to be cut lopsided, and I don't think it did, so that's good. After the incision was made on the first eye, they did the same exact procedure on the right eye. Luckily, this time it didn't take 3 times. They got it from the first try. They cut the flap on the right eye as well. At that point, the machine comes back up. The doctor asked me to sit up. I sat up and he asked me to go on the next bed. So I lay down on the next bed, and the first thing he does is, of course, pry the eyeball open with those plier things. And with a little pick, he made some marks on my eyeball. He didn't explain why he was doing that, but I'm assuming those were just the corners of where the cut was made, just so he knows where to pry with the pick. Because the next thing he did was take another pick, and he was kind of plucking at that flap, and he wasn't able to get it right away. By the way, this whole thing is a manual process. He has to peel that flap open on the eyeball completely manually with that little pick. So, you know, during this whole process, I'm looking with that eyeball. Everything is really blurry, but I can still see him plucking at my eye until he finally got that flap and peeled it back. At that point, the laser gets fired up. There's, as far as I remember, there was 1 red dot and 2 green dots on the side. He told me to look in the center as much as I could, and the laser fires up and starts cutting the eye. The whole process takes about 10 seconds, and I kid you not, during this process, it smells like a roasting eyeball, like the same smell as when you would hit a fly with the fly swatter. You know those electric fly swatters? When you hit that fly and you roast it for a little bit, it gives off that smell, roasted fly smell. That's exactly how a roasted eyeball smells as well. And I know that they say that the LASIK procedure is painless, and I agree, for the most part it is, but I gotta admit, this whole entire procedure is rather unpleasant to go through, but it is worth it because now I can see really clearly. But anyway, they lasered my first eye, did the same exact procedure with my second eye, put the flaps back on, and I don't remember clearly, but I'm pretty sure after the whole procedure, while I was still laying down, right before I got up, they did apply some kind of eye drops in order to keep that cornea in place, that flap, so it doesn't go anywhere. The doctor asked me to sit up, asked me how I'm feeling. I said I'm feeling okay, besides everything being really blurry and murky and I'm barely able to see much. But after the doctor confirmed that I'm feeling okay and I have no more questions, I was promptly escorted to the front door and sent on my way. Since the doctor didn't provide any warnings or explanations after the surgery, anything to look forward to or to expect, on the way home, I gotta admit I was pretty worried because I was looking around at license plates, at trees and stuff, and even though my eyesight was better, there was a lot of blurry spots and there was a lot of doubling going on. So I was like, man, I really hope, I mean, I know this is supposed to get a little better, but this is really bad. I'm hoping this will get better. And to top it off, every time I blinked, it felt like my eyelids were scratching the spots where they made the incisions, where they made the cuts for the flaps. My eyelids would rub on that spot and I would get like a scratching feeling every time I blinked. But it wasn't too terrible. We made it home without any surprises. I took a little nap on the couch, then we ate, chatted a little bit, and after that I just got knocked out and slept the whole entire night like a rock. I did put on my night guard for the first night and the second night, but after that I stopped wearing it because on the second night, as I move around, I mean, it's on your face pretty loosely. So when you move around at night, on the second night in the morning, when I woke up, this thing was halfway off my face, and the corner of this goggles, the corner of it was right next to my right eyeball, just almost poking it, right where my cornea got cut. So that kind of scared me. After that, I just stopped wearing these things. This night mask doesn't seem quite reliable to me. As for the sunglasses, I only wore them on the first and second day, and after that, really, I don't feel like there's much of a need for it. Some people say they wear them 1 week after the operation, and in our case, it's kind of gloomy right now in Hawaii, so it's not bright. Maybe if it was a nice, bright, sunny day, then I would need to wear them, but for now, it's been gloomy for the last 3 days, so I haven't had to wear any sunglasses. The next morning after the operation, my eyes didn't feel as bad and things weren't as blurry as they were the previous day until I put the eye drops in. The eye drops, they really make things quite blurry for a while, for maybe like 15 minutes after you put them in. And by the way, I severely underestimated how many eye drops I would be putting in. I thought it would be like once or twice a day and 1 bottle, but it's actually 3 bottles and you have to put them in 4 times a day. So it's a lot of eye drops. One more inconvenience is that one of the eye drops is thick. It's like thick white substance, and when you apply it, later on you have this white stuff all around your eyeballs. But luckily, it's not that hard to get off. If it's still wet, you can just gently rub it off, or after it dries out, it becomes like soft wax and you can just kind of pluck it off gently, once again, because you don't want to be rubbing your eyes. And I wasn't sure what they meant by redness in the eye after the operation, but what happened in my case was wherever they made that cut, in a few of those spots, there was just these red spots on my eyeball. You could see kind of where they made the cut. Anyway, later that morning, my wife took me back to the clinic for the follow-up appointment. And when I came in, the first thing they did was take me back to that testing room. So I looked into that machine with the little house on the prairie. I'm still not quite sure what that does. So I looked into it. It did its little zoom in, zoom out procedure. Next machine was the air pressure thing, where they do a puff of air into your eyeballs, left and right. After that, they took me to the next room for the eye chart. You cover up one eye and see how many letters you can read, and the letters kept progressively getting smaller, and she asked me to read them one line at a time. They got smaller, next line, next line. My right eye was almost 20/20, even though there was quite a bit of blurriness and double vision going on. I could still pretty much make out all the letters until the smallest line. With my left eye, it was obviously worse. Everything was kind of doubling. I could still kind of read it, but I only got through about half of the charts that my right eye went through. After the lady, or the assistant, was done administering those tests and recording my responses, she told me to wait for the doctor and went out of the room. Of course, during this whole time, nothing was explained again, which I guess it's not a big deal, it's just some simple tests. The doctor came in, he didn't really touch on that either. The first thing he did was put a machine in front of my eyes, asked me how I'm doing. I said I'm doing all right. He started looking in my eyes, turned on the lights, and his main focus was just to make sure that my cornea seated back properly, that flap, that it aligned properly, there was no wrinkles, and it wasn't out of place. That was his main concern, which is understandable. And luckily, both of my flaps looked really good. He said I'm good to go, and my recovery is set to be pretty smooth. After he was done checking my eyes, it was time for questions and answers, and I asked him about the blurriness and the eyelid scratching that I was experiencing. He explained to me that most of that is probably caused by eye dryness. Since my eyes were too dry, that was causing my blurriness, and that was the scraping feeling that I was getting. After he explained that, he opened his desk and pulled out 2 eye drop lubricant boxes and gave them to me, which are actually very helpful. I started using them, and that scratching feeling went away like right away. He also pointed out that these should not be used in conjunction with those other eye drops. I should space them out. So I use them just throughout the day, but not with those other eye drops. After the questions were over, he suggested that I might want to buy some products at the front desk, some kind of cleaning solution to clean off all the oil residue and that white gunk from the eye drops that is formed around your eyes, and some kind of a heat pad to help lubricate the eyes. I decided not to get any of that, and everything was just fine. But that was it for this checkup. The doctor told me he wants to see me in a week, so I went to the front desk lady and scheduled my follow-up visit in 1 week. Time flies, and it's already been 12 days after the operation. I wouldn't say that my eyesight is perfect 20/20, but it's much better than it used to be. Remember how I told you I don't need those sunglasses? Well, recently I tried driving at night, and the headlights, the glare, they just blind me. The cars coming towards me, they blind me, every single one of them, regardless if it's blue light or yellow light, very blinding. So ironically, I don't wear my sunglasses during the day, but I do wear them at night if I'm driving. Hopefully my eyes are gonna stabilize with time and they won't be as sensitive to headlights. But anyway, let's go back to 1 week after the operation where I had my follow-up appointment, and they did the whole routine when I got there, where the assistant takes me and does the prairie on the house machine, the puff of air in the eyeball, and then the eye chart to see if my eyes improved at all. And unfortunately, there wasn't too much improvement, but this time I asked the assistant, hey, just out of curiosity, what's my prescription currently? And I'm not at 20/20, but she said I was at about 20/30, 20/25. So I wasn't quite there, but I'm doing much better. I mean, in the past, when they did the preliminary checks before LASIK, I was barely reading 2100. So 20/30 is a giant improvement for me. So I was hoping to at least get 20/20, but I guess, I can't really complain because, like I said, my eyesight is much better than it used to be. And they don't actually guarantee 20/20 vision. They just guarantee a big improvement. But the doctor wants to give it a month or two for the eyes to completely stabilize, and then we'll check again, and hopefully we will see some more minor improvements from where I am right now. So all the preliminary tests and the eye chart are always done by an assistant, and then they sit me down in the magic chair to wait for the doctor. After I wait for about 5 minutes, the doctor comes in, and this time, like last time, the first thing they checked was the flaps. And luckily, my flaps are all right, nothing got misplaced. She only mentioned that my eyeballs are a little bit dry. I asked her, how can you tell? She's shining a flashlight in my eyes and looking, and she said that the parts that are dry, they're kind of hazy. And you can actually feel it when you're blinking. It feels like your eyelids are a little bit like scrapey, like they scrape the eyeball every time you blink. So you can feel when the eye is getting a little bit dry. She said the flaps look good and the eyeball looks good, and hopefully the reason I'm not seeing 20/20 yet is because of the little bit of dryness in my eye, which is causing my vision to be a little bit more blurry. So hopefully with time, as my eyeball stabilizes, as my natural eye drops come back, hopefully things will get a little bit better. The reason I came in there with my eyes being a little bit dry is because the day prior, I actually just ran out of those lubricant eye drops, the artificial tear drops. So when I came into the appointment, my eyes were a little bit dry. So this time she actually gave me 2 big boxes of those eye drops, which should last me for a long time, hopefully until I don't need them any longer. One question I had for her though is, if I use these eye drops a lot, is it gonna make my eyes dependent on this stuff? Are they gonna start relying on these eye drops and stop producing eye drops of their own, the tears? And she said, no, absolutely not. You can drown them with those eye drops and everything will be fine. The eyes will stabilize and start to produce their own tears with time. Another thing I remembered is that when I was signing the consent, they said that they may record my whole operation, the whole surgery. So I asked her if I can have a video of my eye surgery just so I can share bits of it on here, because that would be pretty interesting. But unfortunately, she said that they don't film their LASIK surgeries. They only film the cataract surgeries, which is in a different operational room. So I could not get a video of that. Lastly, since there was people in my church that are also interested in the LASIK operation, I asked her, hey, if I refer people to you, can they get a discount? Because I'm going to be a lot more inclined to refer them if they have a discount, because, you know, discounted business is better than no business, right? She thought about it and she agreed. And now if I refer anybody and they use my name when they come, they get $500 off, which I think is pretty awesome. But other than checking my eye and making sure the flaps are in place and answering all my questions, that was it for that appointment. I scheduled my next one out for 2 months. They wanted to do 1 month, but I asked if I could do it longer. So they said to come back in 2 months. By the way, I forgot if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but you cannot wear contact lenses 2 weeks before your operation. So if you're somebody that wears contact lenses all the time, then you cannot wear those for 2 weeks before the operation if you get one. Another thing I'm becoming curious about is, are all LASIK operations pretty much similar and the same? Or is your experience much different than mine? If you're somebody that has gotten the LASIK operation, or you know somebody that's gotten it, was their experience or was your experience similar to what I'm explaining, or was it way different? I'll be curious to know how your LASIK operation went, what your story is. So if you can, I would love to see you in the comments below. And I think that's about it for now. I'm gonna wrap it up for this section of the video. I'm probably gonna film the last part, just how it's going afterwards, after I finish the calendar, my little eye drop calendar. After I completely put check marks all over it, then I'll come back and finish the finale of this video to tell you how my eyes ended up. It has been about a month after the operation, and many eye drops later, I am finally done with the checklist. This is just a quick 1 month update. Basically, nothing really new happened. I was hoping that within a month my eyesight would start getting better, but unfortunately, it pretty much stayed the same. I mean, it's still much better than it used to be, but when I stand next to somebody that has 20/20 vision, perfect vision, and I've tried this with quite a few people, they could still see a little better than me, they could still see further, and they can read things from farther away than me. So what I'm gonna do is postpone the ending of this video for a whole nother month, because that's when my next appointment is. And at that next appointment, that's when I'm gonna decide with the doctor if this is the end, this is just the way my eyesight's gonna stay, which is really good, or am I gonna get a correction and I'm gonna get it a little bit better. I'm gonna get a little tweak. And I'm back yet again. It's been a little bit over 2 months since I got my surgery, and I already went to the follow-up visit, the 2 months after the surgery visit, to see how things are going. And before I get to that, I do wanna touch on the eye drops a little bit. So in the last months, I've been having a hard time with allergies, runny nose all the time. Every single morning my nose is running and my eyes were really super itchy. Now, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, that my eyes were really itchy along with my allergies, but that did get me curious. The eye drops that I was using, just the lubricant eye drops, the fake tears, I got curious, what are the ingredients in these things? Maybe this is causing my eyes to itch a lot. So I started reading through them, and for example, this is the one I was using at the time. This is the one that they provided for me. It's called Sustain, and once I got to the ingredients, this is what they sounded like. Amino methyl propanol, I'm probably butchering these, but this is what they sound like. Boric acid, hydroxypropyl, potassium chloride, sodium borate, sodium chloride, and I'm going to skip a few, and then it says may contain hydrochloric acid and or sodium hydroxide. And I don't know about you, but to me, that did not sound really good. So I looked up some of these online to see what they do and how they may affect the eyes. And it turns out that some of these ingredients actually irritate the eye and they cause dryness and itchiness. After I found that out, I immediately stopped using these eye drops. And once again, I don't know if this was a coincidence, my allergies went away, and along with the allergies, the eyes stopped itching. With every day that I stopped using these, they itched a little less, and like a week later, my eyes are not itchy at all. Instead, my wife ordered me some homeopathic eye drops, and I've been using these whenever my eyes feel dry, and everything's been going good. My eyes have not been itching for the last week and a half. So I thought I would mention that if any of you are going to be going through a case of really itchy eyes, maybe look into what eye drops you're using and try using something else. Now, let's get back to the appointment that I went to a couple of days ago, the 2 months after. And it turns out, I was really hoping this was not going to be the case, but it turns out that my right eye sees a little bit worse than my left eye. The left eye sees about 20/20, but the right eye sees about 20/30, 20/35. So it's blurrier than the left eye. And the doctor said that does need to get fixed. They did some follow-up tests on my right eye. I had to look at a bunch of different eye charts with different settings just so they could fine-tune it. And they scheduled me to get a follow-up operation. They're gonna have to re-laser my right eye to get it up to par with the left one. So in 2 days, I'm gonna get LASIK surgery again on my right eye and go through the whole procedure all over again. The eye drops and everything, the recovery for like almost a month. And I can't say I'm thrilled about that, but hopefully that will get it fixed once and for all and all will be good. And one more thing worth mentioning is that the doctor said he's only gonna lift the flap once. He's really only comfortable doing it one time, no more than that, and I'm really hoping this will be the end of it. But he's saying that the more they lift that flap, the more chances there are for an infection to happen. So basically the flap that they cut out the first time and they lifted it so they could do the laser surgery, they're gonna re-lift that same flap, which is kind of a bummer because it's already all healing up and yet they're gonna peel it away once again to do that laser surgery fine-tuning. So that is the update. I was really hoping to be already done with this video by now, but the video goes on. I'll come back and let you know how it goes after the surgery. It has been 3 days after the surgery and I'm back to these lovely little eye drops that I'm doing 4 times a day. I have this schedule once again, so it's pretty much like a whole month of eye drops in my right eye. So this whole same process all over again. And this time he gave me a different box of lubricating eye drops, because I did tell him about the ingredients in the other one. And this one is Refresh Optiv Mega 3. The day of the surgery went just about as expected. I sat in the lobby for about half an hour. They did some preliminary tests, and then they gave me the blue pill, which makes you all relaxed and a little bit lightheaded. And after about 15 minutes after that kicked in, they take you into the operation room and they start doing the whole procedure. This time they didn't need to use the machine that cuts the eye because they're gonna reuse the same flap. And I gotta admit, the feeling this time was even more unpleasant than last time, because if I can compare it to paint, you know, the painter's tape, when you put it on, when you take it off while it's fresh, when you just put it on and not too much time passed when you're taking that tape off, it comes off pretty easy. But after it's been there for a while, you have to like scrape off that tape. So it kind of felt like that with the eye. This top layer, he was picking at it, not just from one side to peel it open, but like from all sides. First, he poked it with a pick, I guess to see where that flap is, because it already healed up pretty nice. So he poked the little spots where he would start picking from, and then he would started picking on it from all different directions. This time was even more unpleasant than the first time. But luckily it didn't take very long. He was able to finally peel it back. They lasered the eye. I smelled that same roasted fly smell, and all was done. They put it back, put the eye drops in, and told me that they will see me tomorrow. For the rest of the day, I was pretty out of it because of that little blue pill that they gave me. Still a little lightheaded and sleepy, so I went to sleep and I just got knocked out until the morning. Next morning, we went back to the clinic for a follow-up appointment, and they checked my eye, did the little different tests, and did the eye chart. And surprisingly, my right eye was actually even seeing a little bit better than my left eye. It was seeing 20/15, so very small letters on that little eye chart. But that being said, those little letters, they were super blurry. I was barely making them out, but they put it down in the books as I can see that line. After all the basic tests, the doctor then came in with his little flashlight, turned off the lights, and took a look at my eye, made sure that the flap was in place and it didn't shift or anything. He said everything looks great. And even though I told him, hey, my eye actually is a little bit blurry, he said, the numbers look amazing. I have high expectations. I'll see you in a month. And that was really it for that appointment. It's been 2 days since then, and unfortunately, I really hoped that my right eye would be seeing clear by now, at least as good as my left eye. But now it seems like it's seeing a little bit worse than my left eye once again. It's not as sharp. Things are still blurry in the distance. So I'm really hoping that with time, give it a week or two, it will stabilize, because originally it could even make out smaller letters than the left eye could. I'm still doing all the eye drops by the schedule, so I'm hoping that given another week or two, it'll stabilize and become better. But I will be back in maybe like 2 weeks, or actually in a month after that next appointment, to let you know how everything goes. Another quick update for you guys. It's been about a month since the last time I recorded, and I'm on my way to an appointment, the 1 month follow-up appointment after the second surgery, or the second time around. And unfortunately, the right eye still does not see as good as the left eye. In fact, about a week ago, I went to a driver's appointment, or not a driver's appointment, but a driver's license renewal, and I had to do the eye test, and they checked each eye individually. Left eye passed pretty easily, although it was still doubling just a little bit. But with the right eye, like there was a letter D, it was really doubling. I could not tell if the letter D was a C, an O, or a D, or a Q. It was doubling up, and man, I really struggled to pass the eye test on that driver's license renewal with my right eye. So now we're on the way to my follow-up appointment, and we're gonna see what the doctor's gonna say this time. And I'm back. The doctor's visit went as normal, did the normal checks, done the eye chart, and then the visit with the doctor. I asked the doctor, so doc, what is my prescription? Like, what am I looking like? I looked at the eye chart, you recorded the numbers, but what does that mean? And according to her, my prescription is actually 20/20 plus. So supposedly I have perfect eyesight and even a little bit better than average. So I asked her, okay, well in that case, why am I seeing a little bit of a blur and doubleness? I mean, yeah, I can make out the letters on the 20/20 line. I can make them out, but they still have that blur or doubling around them. And she explained it to me as optical aberration or optical abnormalities, and that is not something that LASIK can fix. As far as LASIK goes, they shaved off as much as they could, and this is the best LASIK can get me to. So I told her, for example, that blue LED light, which is across the room, it's supposed to be a solid blue light. But what I'm seeing is the blue light and then like a big blue X, you know, these lines coming out of it. Is that normal? And she looks at it and says, well, hey, I'm seeing something similar. So according to the doctor, a lot of people have these optical abnormalities, which have nothing to do with the prescription, that causes a little bit of that doubling, haloing, or those lines that spread out. So my eyesight is perfect, prescription-wise, but optically there's some abnormality, and that's not something LASIK can fix. And surprisingly, to be honest, when I was doing the eye chart at the doctor's, you know, they had all the lights off and it's a computer screen that's across the room. That eye chart, I actually saw it pretty good. The 20/20 line, there was not too much blurriness or doubleness. I saw it not too bad. So it was a pleasant surprise that I could see the eye chart better than I was able to at the vehicle registration place. And the doctor also told me that hopefully within a month or two, as my brain will get used to my better eyesight, that haloing and distortion will get a little bit less, and my eyesight will be more clear and sharp without all the blurred edges. She also told me to keep my eyes lubricated. Now that I'm done with all those prescription eye drops, make sure to keep lubricating my eyes. In fact, she suggested going on a schedule 4 times a day. Make sure my eyes are just lubricated, put those drops in. And of course, these are the same drops that have those funky ingredients in them. And I did tell her that my eyes are really itchy, and she only stressed the point that, you know, make sure that they're preservative free, and that should be less of an irritant. So this box, this whole stash that she gave me with this latest visit, it is preservative free, but it still has those same inactive ingredients that are really irritating to the eye. If there's any of you out there that are well versed in ingredients and stuff, I'd be interested to know, what do you think about that? And if there's better alternatives, and if this is even a big deal or I should just ignore it. So this is the end of my LASIK journey, or at least the recording of it. She told me to come visit them again in 5 months. I'm not gonna wait that long. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this video. My eyesight is way better. It's pretty much as good as it was when I would put on my prescription glasses in the past, minus the little bit of the doubling. But hopefully with time that will become less, to the point where it's negligible and it doesn't bother me a lot. So right now, for example, I'm looking at, you know, all the nature around me and I'm seeing it very clearly. I'm happy with my eyesight. If I would go back and somebody would ask me, would you do it again if you went back in time? Yes, I probably would do LASIK again. I am happy with this result. The minor doubleness going on, I could live with that. It's not too bad. But if there's anybody watching that also got the LASIK procedure done, I would be very interested to know, was your whole procedure similar to mine or was it different? But anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this LASIK journey. This guy's name, by the way, is Dragon. He's a good chameleon. He's trying to catch a fly that has been bothering me. So he's doing his thing. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to mash that like button on the way out, and I will see you in the comment section below. And if you're still here and not in the comment section yet, let me tell you one more interesting fact. Did you know that each person has a dominant eye? Just like you're right-handed and left-handed, you also have a dominant eye. And a really easy way to find out which eye is the dominant for you is to simply point to something. So pick an object to point it to with your finger, point to that object, and then close your eye one at a time. So right now I'm closing my left eye, and my finger is not moving at all. But when I close my right eye, it's like my finger gets teleported to the right by a couple of inches. And the cool thing about the dominant eye is that you can supposedly change it. All you have to do is wear an eye patch for about a week. So if your right eye is dominant, but you want your left eye to be dominant, you could just wear an eye patch on the dominant eye for about a week, and the other eye will become the dominant eye. Why would you want to do that? Well, for example, if you're a shooter and you're right-handed, yet your left eye is the dominant eye, that kind of messes with the precision. It would be better if the right eye lined up with your right hand. Just a fun piece of trivia for you. Anyway, I'll see you in the comments.